This event is brought to you by Singing Creek Educational Center in partnership with the Creswell Library. This event is a part of the Consider This series, funded by a grant from Oregon Humanities. Our speaker is Dietrich Peters, a Kalapuya elder who lives in Lynn County. We are on the traditional ancestral lands of the Kalapuya people, many of whom are now citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and others. In the 1800s, the Kalapuya and other indigenous people were forcibly removed from their homes and sent to reservations. Indigenous people make important and enduring contributions to the world, the nation, and the place we now call Oregon. Singing Creek Educational Center supports the reclaiming of culture, language, land, and ecological knowledge and the sovereignty of First Nations peoples. Dietrich Peters is a member of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. He is Kalapuya, Rogue River, and Umpqua. Dietz is the director of the Native American cultural encampments in the summertime in Lynn County. He is a maker of traditional regalia and accessories, a flute musician, and a good friend of Karen Rainsong. He is a father and a grandfather, and he enjoys sharing Native culture with the community. Welcome, Dietz.
Hi, Masi. Hello, everybody. In our language, we say L'chaim. That means hello. So, hello, L'chaim. Tonight we're going to talk about fear and belonging. What it looks like in our eyes. So I'm going to give you a brief rundown of how that goes. We'll see how that goes. And, my fear was to begin with this and to begin with fear, because we all have something we fear, and we all have to learn how to handle that fear, what makes it go away, how we deal with it. Do we deal with it the rest of our lives, or do we deal with it one day at a time? Or do we deal with it one time and be done with it? So we always have something that we can work with fear. As a young child, we learn to talk. We learn different things in our culture that we don't collect information with. So when you're little, you don't really look at that as something that you're learning about your culture, but you're learning something in your culture. And then you get a little older, you start going to school, and then you find the real fear there because you look different. And so that starts the fear. That brings it into your life. And not knowing as a child how to handle that, we go on day to day to day, continuing to learn that fear. And when you're little like that, people look at you and they're at this far away. This is how far away that they will walk around you because you look different. And you don't talk different. I spoke my English language when I was little. I'm pretty sure I was pretty loud and clear. But when you're little like that and you start learning that fear, you learn that your self-esteem and your confidence goes down in that fear. And the fear gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon, you're walking around and you're looking at people. You're not smiling. You're just watching them go by because there's no acceptance from them. So most of the time when you're little, growing up, you have to look at that every day. You get up in the morning and you think, well, I wonder, am I going to get beat up today? Is somebody going to say something really mean to me today? Is the teacher going to be cross with me because I didn't cross my T's right, or write the alphabet right, or speak out of turn? Those things are real when we're little. Those things are always something. To pass that up a little bit more, grade school, same way, same thing. most of my years going through from kindergarten, first grade, all the way up to high school, I probably had 2 or 3 friends. I didn't have any more than that, because none of the other people that I seen and knew were the same color as me. So I grew up with very few friends. And to me, it was scary going to another school. Okay, what's going to happen when I go here? Am I going to be able to handle the fear there? And trying to talk to my parents about it was really hard because they weren't understanding what I was feeling. And when you're a child trying to tell them about things going on with you, it becomes really hard because they're not listening to what you're saying or your feelings, or if even your feelings come out, they're not hearing it. So you still live with that for a while, carrying it on. Junior high was the same way. So had a few people there. All through this time from grade school through high school, one thing happened that was positive in my life. One thing happened that I carried on through that, and that was the sound of music. Music was my safe place for me. And I loved water. I was born under the sign of Pisces, and water is exactly the place that I feel safe. So those things I kept with me. Summertime was my favorite time because I could go to the river. I could go to a pool, you know, and I'd be all right by myself. Or somebody else would maybe come in and somebody would say, hi. That was the extent of the conversation with them. So learning how to deal with that was really hard. But the whole time, my music kept me going. I loved music. I used to sing all the time. When I was younger, I used to sing Patsy Cline songs. That was my favorite ones that I could tune in with because I could sing like her, sing just like her when I was younger. And got a little bit older, going through high school. A couple times I got beat up because of who I was. I wasn't accepted by those people, by my peers. I was in a swim team, and I was doing really well. I did really well. I was in the diving team, and I was second behind a senior. He was on the diving team. He was number 1. I was number 2, and I was a freshman. And he said, we connected, and everybody knew him. He was, you know, he was already lettered, and he was a good guy. But he made it clear to me that I could talk to him. So he became a friend before he went on and graduated. So a little bit of positive note there when I was going to school there. And he helped me through my swimming. I stayed there at number 2 spot through that time. I was on a diving team. So we did a lot of 3 meter and we did the high dive. And I would do dives that he would tell me how to do it, and I would go up and try it. And I'd come off and he'd tell me, try this, you know, you're not doing that right, you need to try this. And that was great because he was helping me learn the dive that I really wanted to do. And I mastered it. It was really good. And we got ready to go to state. We did really well that one year and get ready to go to state. And a devastating thing happened to me. I caught chicken pox. I didn't get to go. And so I didn't get the letter. And everybody on the swim team just kind of went away. Everybody. I didn't get to letter. I didn't get to, well, it upset me so bad that I told my mom, I said, I don't want to go to school no more. I'm done with school. She said, well, you have to do something. And I said, fine, I'll go get a job. I'll find something else to do, but I'm not going to school. I said, it's not working for me. I said, I can't catch up with this, and I don't have the help that a lot of people, other people have. I don't have it. You know, even the tutors, they were like, well, I got this many people, I can't help you. A lot of them were like that. So I didn't get the help. And I gradually just kind of went out of school. So later on, still carrying that fear, still carrying it around, learning how to deal with it. Now I'm married and got kids, and I'm still carrying the feeling of not being accepted. So finding a job was really hard because I didn't look like everybody else. But I was warm and bubbly. Hey, how you guys doing? I'd like to apply for a job here. You get the application and you bring it back. I'm sorry, we can't because, there's something, but the next person in line gets the job. So there was a lot of that going on. Finally, I worked at the cannery, and I found people with my color. They weren't exactly Native American, but they were people my color. They were of Native culture, maybe Mexican or Aztec or, whatever. There were lots of colored people too that I could talk to. But they didn't have a problem with it. But other people did that were there, And I remember when I was younger too, when my sister was working at cannery, these little ladies would come and pick them up, and I was really darker than a lot of my brothers and sisters. And summertime would be when she would go work at the cannery. And so I would tan just like instantly dark brown. And I'd go out and tell them bye, see you guys later. And one little old lady says, how come your brother's so dark? And my sister said, oh, he drinks lots of chocolate milk. So, it was a way that she dealt with the acceptance of what she had to say about me. And when she came later on, as we got older, I said, why did you tell those ladies that? She goes, because they were always wondering if you were adopted. And I said, what did you tell her? She goes, no, he's not adopted. I said, oh my goodness. I said, that's horrible to feel unaccepted that way, And so after I got out of school, started going to work, started doing some things, and then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go on a road trip with him. I said, you sure you want me to go? I mean, there was a lot of, like, I don't think I want to go. He's like, you'd have a lot of fun. I said, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Tennessee. And I go, I don't think I want to go. He says, you need to go. It'll be fun. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I went to my mom and my dad, and I explained to them what the neighbor kid was asking me about. They gave me some money to go with him. I was kind of like shocked. I was like, why are they giving me money? What's going on there? So we went, and we had a good time on the way down there. And we went in places we'd never thought I'd ever see. And all kinds of things like that. We got down there. Well, his mom goes to the Mormon church. It's like, okay, I can go to the church. I can be a part of this. I can do it. They were very accepting because there was a lot of colored people down there. There was a lot of Native people down there. There were a lot of Mexicans down there. So they were in acceptance with that because they wanted people to come to their church. So I got in there. I was really accepted. I got to talking with them and everything, and they wanted to send me on a mission. And I said, I don't know if I want to do that. I said, that's real far away from home, and I said, I need to think about it. And the two elders that were my support, they said, you will do really well because you have that positive touch that everybody looks for. Everybody. I said, I can't do that. And I got to thinking about it. The more I thought about it, the more afraid I felt. And that fear just kind of continued to stand next to me and say, no, you're not going to go. You're going to stay here. So I didn't go. I continued to hang on to that hand of fear. And I came back home. But one thing that I did while I was down there, I got baptized. And the Creator put it in me. He says, you will not do this no more. You'll not be afraid. You will not do any of that. You're going to go forward and you're going to have a good life. So I had to learn how to get rid of fear. And most of it was to face the fear, face it. As hard as it was to do, it was hard, really hard. A lot of it came out of my family. There was fear there. When I came back home, I told them I got baptized. They said, well, we won't hold it against you. And I'm like, did I really deserve that? You know, so again, a little bit of that fear was like, you know, hanging on to that sentence, well, we won't hold it against you. So for a long time, I used to think about that. Well, what do they mean by that? You know, what is the fear there? What is, you know, so a lot of that fear we carry around with us sometimes. And without going to a specialist or a counselor or any of that, we find people that we can talk to, and maybe they have some of that in them too. So we talk about that. We get some of that out. We lean on each other's shoulder, but we learn how to get rid of that fear. So coming back to the tribe, I had to learn how to do things. So when I was finally old enough to understand all of my tribal things and my traditions and my culture, I was trying to, again, get rid of that fear, but that fear kept following me. And Creator kept saying, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And He talked me through all of these things. Talked to me about fear. And He would tell me, you have things coming up in your life that you're going to struggle with. But you're going to do okay. You just need to go through it. You need to stumble. You need to step up on those blocks. You need to not be afraid. And I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so I learned the right way in our culture to pray with sage and sweetgrass. A lot of it was hard. Sometimes even the answer that you get is hard to hear because it's so positive and pure that you think you would never ever hear that. So fear plays a lot in our lives, in our culture. The fear of how we're going to fit in society or the community. The fear of going to another tribe and being accepted. Because some tribes are still fighting with each other, so we don't know that, where we're going to be accepted at. So going to those other places, and I've been to a lot. I've been to New Mexico. I've been to Wyoming. I've been to Idaho, Washington. And there's a lot of tribal people in all those areas. But to be accepted by them is a big fear because you don't know if you're going to be accepted by them. So going into those places, there's a lot of prayer going into it because you don't want to go by yourself. You don't want to take that fear of thinking with you. You want to be positive. So it's always good to go in those places and find those positive people. Sometimes it's really hard to find them. Sometimes we don't find them. We just kind of like, okay, well, we'll go to the next place. So learning how to get into those places where the acceptance is what we always look for. And there, in those places, are those people who do accept you. And they'll come right up. Oh, hey, how you doing? I heard you were coming, but I didn't know what you looked like, so I'm glad you came here. I'm glad you're here. You know. But until you find that fear is going to walk beside you. It's going to poke you on the shoulder. It's going to poke you in the back. It's going to tell you, hey, you don't belong here. You need to leave. But you have to find it in here. You have to find it in yourself to be able to get out of that. And I did that. I learned how to get past some of the things that I feared. It was a hard struggle. It was a hard climb. So I've learned how to be a part of everything I can. Be positive. Learn to be positive. Learn from other people how to be positive. You know, now that we're on a little bit of the adult part of it, learning how to be accepted. I worked at Spirit Mountain Casino for 20 years. And in the beginning of that, I wasn't sure if I was going to fit in because casino life, it's a big deal. You know, what do people at the casino do besides provide a job for, you know, people that come to play the machines and all that kind of thing? It's scary because you're going to meet all kinds of people. All walks of life will come through there. And you're not going to know whether you're going to be accepted by them or not. So having that job there helped me out tremendously. And I worked my way up the ladder through there. I learned how to become the positive person. I learned how to step out and talk to people. I learned how to be thankful for everything that I have. So fear has gone away. A lot of it has gone away. I still have a little bit here and there, but it's not much. You know, and when I first met Karen, you know, there was a fear there. It was like, what is she going to ask of me? Am I going to be able to fulfill everything that she's asking me? You know, there again, here comes the fear, you know. But through prayer, and thinking about all the things she's asked me to do, the Creator has said, you're going to be fine. You might have a little bit of hard time here and there, but you're going to do all right. You're going to be able to tell people things that they want to know. And so I have stepped out of my comfort zone. And I've come here to learn Karen is a great person, a good friend, and I've got to be here with all of you. And that's a positive side of the next part of it, belonging. Belonging in the community. Belonging out here in the positive area. Learning how to belong as in a tribe. You have to learn how your culture works, your traditions are, all the value that you're supposed to know. Right now I'm learning how to do my language, and I only know like a few things. And there is probably a good handful, and now we're teaching our kids in kindergarten how to speak the language, because it's easier for kids to learn that language than it is for adults, as I'm finding out. So learning how to belong, you have to walk the walk, talk the talk. You have to know your knowledge of things. You have to know about where you come from, who you are. I am Kalpuya, Rogue River, and Umpqua. That's who I am. And just recently I found out that I'm a little bit Russian. Hard to hear, because my whole life my father has told me, you're Black Dutch, you're Black Dutch, you're Black Dutch. You know, and if you told somebody, if he was in earshot of you, and you told somebody, I think we're part German, he would say, no, you're Black Dutch, you're Black Dutch, you're Black Dutch. Now get it in your head. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. But my wife has been doing genealogy, and she's finding a lot of positive strokes in what she's doing, because she's gone back to the 14th century in her family life. And there's a lot of dukes and duchesses and people who own castles and land and stuff over there. And at one point in time, she came across something, and her mom was agreeing with it, that she was part native. Well, come to find out, one of her family members that lived up in Tillamook was married to a Lino. Well, I am part of that line. My mother is a Lino. And so we were looking into it, and I said, what if we're cousins? So yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, what if we are? So that's when she said, well, I'm gonna go find out. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna see. So she's been walking through, getting through stuff. And she found out that she is native, but not from here. She is from back east. There's a tribe there that she's part of. Her background comes that far to the west. So, but yeah, across the big water, she is full of dukes and duchesses and kings and queens. I said, I want to do that. I said, wait a minute. No, I don't want to do that. I said, I am related to a chief in my family. I said, and that's one of the 5 named tribes that we are under. And he was the chief of one of those. And he was the Umpqua chief. So I'm related to him. And, you know, when I think about that thing, that's a big positive thing. It makes you feel different. It makes you stronger in your belief of your culture. Teaching people about who you are, where you come from, why do you carry these things. If you need me to stop, put your hand up. I'm glad to answer any questions, but yeah, you know, learning what's important about all these things, how we take care of them, what we do to take care of them, what we do to learn how to make these things, because a lot of things I've made here, pretty much all of it. And learning how to take care of it is a big deal, because we don't just take it and throw it in a corner. All these things are pretty sacred to us. And I've learned that when I was learning how to belong to the tribe, how to belong to the community in the tribal lands. So, and I've learned too that in Lebanon area, there is a place that they are building the new visitor center that is on the Kalpuya land. So I am helping them put together this visitor center, because they want to add that history of that land piece where they're at. So I went up and did a ceremony for the cedar tree they were going to cut down. And then we peeled some bark off of it. Really traditional things. And a lot of the guy that took us up there, and he was, I've never seen this before, but I've heard of it. And I said, well, firsthand. And then the guy that was peeling bark, he says, here, you do it. So he peeled up about a 50-foot piece of bark off that tree, the cedar tree. So learning how we as Native people use our cultural things out there is important. And when they learn those things, it was like, I would have never known that's how that works, you know. And then we went on to talk about how we prepare the bark and what we do with the bark when we take it from the tree. So that was good. So now they're going to cut up the trees. They've already cut them to a size. They're putting 2 pillars in the front of that cedar tree. They're taking a piece of it in the back and making a bench with that tree. And the rest of it, they're going to make different things with it. And I said, we can make a lot of stuff with that. I said, if you want it in here, we could probably do a lot of things with that cedar. So she goes, well, if you want some of it, take whatever you need. I said, we could make flutes. I said, that's an awesome thing. I said, we can make a bent wood box. We can make a vest. We can make a hat. We can make a basket. We can make lots of things with this wood. So it just depends on what you want. So they have commissioned somebody from the tribe to make them some baskets. I said, well, I'd do it if I knew how. I said, I didn't get to learn that piece. Somehow it's jumped some kind of barrier that I didn't get to know. But I'm a part of that community doing those things. And I'm being out there, being a positive, so I can be accepted by a lot of people. And doing good things for our tribe helps me to belong to the tribe. It teaches me about the community I live in, the Native people that might be there, and there are some there. They just don't grasp that because for fear that somebody might know they're Native, and then they're going to let go of those people. And there are people out there that are Native that don't talk about their Native side because they don't want people to know they're Native. That's pretty sad. But belonging and being accepted. Yes?
Question for you. So I was thinking about the younger generation, the kids, and I wanted to know if you have any fears about whether the children in the tribe are learning the culture. Is it going to be carried on? Or, there's so much technology. Kids are often, on their phones and stuff, and I just wondered if you have a sense of fear or hope or both about the younger generation.
So fear for the children learning. There is a fear out there that I believe that is kind of strong because some of the kids will pick it up because of their background, of their name sake. I know a lot of them will carry on because they've learned it from when they were a baby. They've started there with those little kids, and by the time they go to kindergarten, they're speaking the language without a teacher because they speak that in their at home. So when they talk to their children, they speak that language, although they don't speak English. So some of them are going to learn. Some of them are going to learn a lot. Some of them are going to grow up a little bit, and then they're going to start learning some of the things, and they're going to grasp onto the things that they think is important to them. But not all of them are going to learn something. Some of them are just going to go along their merry way, and be Native, but they're not going to learn the culture. They're just going to say, I'm part of Grand Round Tribe, and they're going to leave it at that. I have a nephew that he said he's not a Native, but yet he picks up the per cap check every 3 months. It's sad, very sad. He says, well, I'm not going to be Indian. I said, well, you don't get a choice. It's in your blood. I'm sorry. It's just who you are. I said, talk to your mom and dad. Tell them. I said, there's nothing you can do about it. It's too bad. Creator's got a handle on that. So, those kind of things of the learning, it's a process when they're little, and their parents, if they're into the culture like some of them are. And living on the reservation, that helps a lot. Because if you live on the reservation, you're right into the middle of where the culture is, where the teachers are, and who's going to be able to help you to learn. So I did a class with over spring break with kids that were from probably age 8 to maybe high school age. I taught them all how to make a medicine bag. And each of them had their level of learning, and you could see it when they were doing it. Some of them were like, I've never sewn on it. I don't know how to sew. And it was like, to me it was like, oh, I'm not going to sew, huh? Okay. So I went up next to him. It's like, okay, this is how you do it. And I stood by him and I helped him. I showed him how to do it, and then I gave it to him, and I said, okay, you do a couple and I'll stay right here. If you have any problem, I'll help you. So I stood there and I watched him, and he was like real shaken because he looked like he was afraid of doing it, afraid of actually being able to sew. And I said, there isn't a right or a wrong way to do this. I said, and it's okay to make mistakes. I said, because that helps you learn. So whether you make a mistake on this or not, I said, it's okay. You're going to learn how to make this. I said, that's the key. You're going to learn how to make this. And then later on, you're going to remember it when you want to make a better one. And you're going to know how to do it just like that because you learned this. So I watched him, and I kept walking around the table. I'd go by him, and I said, how you doing? It's okay. Does it look okay? And I said, it's fine. It looks great. It's kind of puffy here. And I said, that's okay. I said, you're getting in both of the holes? And he goes, yeah. I said, see, you can do this. Anybody can do this. So when he got done, he come over and shook my hand and said, thank you for taking the time to show me how to do this, because I probably wouldn't have done it. I said, well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you learn. I said, if you fall down, I'm going to pick you up. I said, if you make a mistake, I'll help you with that mistake as long as you get it the correct way. I'm going to do that for you. So learning when you're younger is also you got stumbling blocks, you got lots of things going on. As you get older, you learn that the stumbling blocks are a little smaller and you can get past them sometimes. But you have to be not afraid to reach out for that hand to help. And, I did 4 classes that day. And in another class, there was another guy, and he had special needs. And again, his hands were really shaky, and I said, you need some help? And he said, yeah. Can you do this for me? And I said, I can show you how to do it. I want you to do it. And he goes, I don't know if I can do that. And I said, let's try it together. Let's do it together. So I got him going on it. I said, okay, your turn. You remember how he did it? And he goes, yeah. And he just kind of talked himself through it and got those needles through the holes. And I said, see, you can do this. And then I walked around a little bit, about halfway through the table, and I looked up to look over and see what he was doing. And he was staring right at me. I'm like, okay. So I went back to him. I said, what's going on? And he goes, the thread's real puffy. And I said, okay, look, pull the thread one at a time until it's tight. So he did. He got it down there again and started sewing again. So I got it halfway around the table again, and he's staring at me again. I'm like, okay. So I go back over there, and Again, he's like, it's not very tight. I said, it's okay. I said, are you getting both the holes? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, you're learning how to do this. It's going to be okay. So he finished, and of course, you know, they only give you so much sinew to work with, and I said, split it before you start doing this, and then you'll have enough. So of course, everybody about halfway there, they're tying on the way I showed him how to. And he says, I can't do this. And I said, okay, I'll come over and tie it for you. So I showed him right in front of him how to tie it together so he could work with it. And he got going on that. And he was about, 2 or 3 minutes behind everybody else of finishing his. It didn't look perfect, but he was excited that he finished it. And that was the main course of it, is to try and help them finish something. And he did. He did a really good job on learning how to put that together. I said, see, pretty soon you're going to want to make another one. He goes, I know, but I'm going to try and make it better. I said, that's okay. I said, you know how to do it, right? And he goes, I do. I said, that's good. That's what you want. I said, see, everybody is looking for that. So we always try to help as many as we can, our little ones. I have 2 great-grandsons that come visit our house. They were there last night. And they're rambunctious, and they're running back and forth. And our house is a shambles because we're getting ready to move. So there are boxes everywhere. And they're running, and they're pushing on the boxes, and we're like, hey, don't do that. You know, we don't know what's in them, but we don't want them to fall on them. So they're running around, and my son says, I'll put on some powwow music. I said, that'll work. So he turns that on, and immediately they're dancing around, doing their little jig, you know, how little kids are. And they're dancing around. I said, I got some old outfits over there that somebody gave me. He said, maybe we can cut them down and make them an outfit. They're not native, but they don't care. It's powwow, you know. At first, we were showing them pictures of me at the Gathering Nation powwows in New Mexico. I've gone down there for several years, and they videotape and make videos for people to buy, so you can take them home and look at them. And every once in a while, it's like, there's me again. You know, there's my wife. There's somebody that you know. There's, you know, it's really great to watch some of them, because then you get to see all the culture together. And those are tribes from all over the place, because this is the biggest powwow in the United States. One year I went there, and there was over 3,000 dancers. And when they, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So when you look, they used to have it in a place called the Pit, and it was a basketball arena. So all the stairs are going down. There's 98 steps. I know, I went up them and down them, so I knew how far it was to get back to the top. And we always try to position ourselves about halfway, so you don't have to go up and down so fast when you get out there and dance, and then have to come back up on to sit down. So, but being able to be at that place, the energy there is so amazing. It is something that I want to do again one more time. And so I talked to some people who are interested, and I try to keep them interested in it, because they want to go and see what this is all about. They want to go and feel that energy that's there. So now they've moved it from that place, which is a whole lot better, to another place that's one level. So instead of going down 98 steps, we just have to walk out on the floor and dance. So a whole lot better. Yes. Yes. I will. Okay. Well, probably you're all thinking about what this is, or why I have it, or got any questions. This is a bustle. It's not a headdress. This is what I wear behind me when I dance. The feathers, there's 40 feathers here, or 42 feathers, counting the risers. These are all the wing feathers right here. This is a golden eagle. This is a adult golden eagle. They change colors when they're younger. So you have more of the white down here and less of the darker colors. We have to have a permit to have these. We can't just have them. And only Native people can have them. But you have to have a card with a number on it that says you belong to a recognized tribe. You can't just have them. You can't just say, oh, I'm Native, that's why I have these. That's not going to work with Fish and Game or any law enforcement, because if they come to check you out and you don't have the right paperwork, the feathers are gone and you could possibly go to jail. They will take your things from you. Everything that you have, they'll go through your house and find every feather or every claw or whatever you have in your freezer. They'll take it. So we have to carry our permits with us. So if we ever run up against that, we have that. So, but we take care of our feathers the best way we know how. We smudge them with sage when we get ready to wear them. And it's a sacred thing because we're praying, because each one of these feathers carries one prayer. Might be for somebody, for the land, for the people of your tribe, for somebody you've lost, for a veteran. But these prayers are all of that. We carry those with us. Even the feathers on my dance stick, those have prayers. The feathers on my head, they have prayers. Those little fluffs up there are tied to each prayer. It's important for us, for whatever feathers that we carry, that we hold them sacred, because it comes from a bird that everybody knows. And that bird is the one that flies highest to Creator. So he carries our prayers when we dance. And in turn, when we dance, we make him come back to life. So those prayers go up to Creator every time we dance. Every time. The parts that we put with our feathers, the beadwork, when we're making these, and this took about 4 days to put this all together. And that's learning the knowledge how to, again, learning how to belong, learning those skills to be able to do this. So when we're putting that together, we're praying, we're listening to our music, praying for all these feathers to go together right, thanking the Creator for them, thanking the great eagle for these feathers. You know, those kind of things. We stay as positive as we can when we're putting these things together, because we know where they come from. We know that the energy that flows from them flows to our bodies, and when we dance, we give it back to all the people. So that's how important these feathers are. But we have to take care of them a certain way. We can't just take them and put them somewhere. You can't fold this up. It's kind of hard to fold that up. You can, but it's really a no-no. And so finding a place to put that, to put it on the wall. Usually we put, we put it with sage or sweetgrass, but we smudge the wall where it hangs. We make sure that we take care of it that way. Another thing that we have with to carry the feathers, and I carry an eagle staff, which has 28 feathers on it. It's about military people that we might have lost. I have 4 4 feathers on there that talks about someone who has fallen or injured and someone who has died that didn't come back. Those are my red feathers I carry with me. This I carry with me when I dance for veterans. This is a picture of my dad. He was in the military. He was in Guadalcanal from 42 to 46. And he was the only one that came back out of his platoon to be able to tell the story about what happened there. So I carry that with great respect. And I've added those feathers to it because he is that honorable to be able to come back and tell people about what happened. And for me, it was pretty rough because growing up, we never got to know him really well. My mom would always push us away. Don't bother him. Don't look at him. Don't. Just leave him alone. Well, when you're a kid, you're inquisitive. Why is he wearing a bandage on his head? What's wrong with his eyes? All these things going on through your head when you're little, and there's no answers for you, no clues, no nothing. But all you get is, don't bother him, go away, don't stand at the door, don't stare at him. So when you do get old enough to learn and hear the stories, you want to run away because you don't want to hear what he went through. And believe me, it was horrible. Just hearing it the first time, I wanted to go and get sick. It was horrible, So I know those stories now, and I go to like the Veteran Summit, and a lot of those men there, they will get up and talk about stuff. I will get up and talk about my childhood with him growing up and tell some of those stories because that is my makeup of who I am and what I do for veterans. So I work with the association, so we help each other out, and I help them. I do a lot of stuff with them culturally, and just try to do whatever I can for them. I know it's not much, but we have a few people in our group that do work with the association, and they are know how to get through the cracks and crevices of getting them the things that they need. So, really good. Sure, I would love to. Yep. Which one do we want? You have a choice. Well, maybe I'll play both anyway. But I'll tell a story. Any questions or anything before? Yes? Quills? Oh, this is porcupine hair, and what holds it on is my braid on top. This stick here goes through my hair, and I tie it on the back to keep it from moving around too much. So you can kind of see it that way. So.
They were asking, where do you source it?
Huh?
Where do you source it?
Where's my what?
Where do you get it from? Where do you get it from?
Well, you have to find the right maker for that. And usually you go to a powwow and you have to talk around people that know the skill of how to make these because they're very expensive. When I bought this one, it was $500. Now they're going from anywhere from $700 to $1,000 to $1,200, depending on the length of the hair and the color that you want on it. So very expensive pieces, and a lot of people say, well, how much is that? It's like, feathers are not for sale. You cannot sell these feathers to anybody. So I had a gentleman ask me that at Frontier Fair, and I said, it's not for sale. I said, we don't sell our feathers. I said, they're too sacred for that. I said, we don't come by them easily. I said, and what we do get, we take care of as if they were our own family. I said, that's how much we praise those feathers. We don't always get them. The other thing that I do for those feathers is tell stories, because they have great stories for them. This bird here is named Thunder, and she was found on the road. Somebody had already hit her. And I picked her up, and there was a clap of thunder, and it was daytime, not a cloud in the sky. I said, okay, your name's Thunder. Thank you. And I picked her up and took her home. So that's, they kind of, sometimes those names, they come out of nowhere. And that's how we get them. We don't get to pick a name. It comes to us. Thanks to the Creator. But I'll tell you a story about this. Long time ago, many moons ago, there's a little boy. He goes to the river every day. Throws rocks in the river because he has nothing really to do. Still little enough to, do whatever. And one day he goes to the river, and he sees this little girl across the river. Excuse me. So he's standing on the other river, jumping up and down, waving his hands, yelling and screaming. And she's not even paying attention to him. She's not looking at him. She just takes her bags, fills them full of water, closes them up, and turns around and walks away. So he goes back to his village and he says, I need to know about something, Dad. I need to find out. He goes, what? He says, well, I've seen this little girl across the river, and I want to talk to her, or get her some kind of acknowledgement. And he says, well, what did you do? And he goes, well, I was yelling, screaming, jumping around, doing cartwheels, and she didn't even look at me. I said, well, maybe you need to go to the tree and pray. You need to go talk to the medicine man. So he goes over there and talks to him, and again, the medicine man tells him, you need to go and pray. So he goes back to the river, and there's a big tree there. So he goes to this tree, and he sits down, and he's talking to the Creator, and he's asking him, what do I need to do? What can I do to get this girl to look at me? And he got done praying. When he got done praying, right next to him, a tree limb landed on the ground. And he just kind of jumped back and was kind of shocked. And the tree limb was probably just about as long as he was tall. And he picked it up and he noticed it was hollow. He's like, I better take this back to the village. So he goes back and he talks to the medicine man. He says, did you talk to the Creator? And he goes, I did, and this is what he gave me. And he was like, what do I do with it? And he says, well, you'll figure it out. You need to look at it, And he was looking at it, and he noticed that it had a hole here and a hole there. He's like, So he found a stick and a rock, and he started working on it. Pretty soon he had a line of holes in it. So he started blowing it, and it was not doing anything. And somehow he put his hand just right across it, and he blew in it. He's like, oh, it makes noise. I'll go there. So he went back to the river, and he was blowing through it. Again, no acknowledgement. She walks away. It's like, oh, man. So he goes back and talks to his dad. Says, I took my stick to the river. I blew through it. I made noise with it. And she didn't even turn around. She didn't look up. Nothing. It's like, oh. He says, maybe you need to learn to do something with it. It's like, what? He says, well, you need to learn how to make other sounds with it. So he remembered that. He put his hand on it, and it made noise. So he's like, oh, I'll get a flat piece of wood or a flat stick or something. I'll put it on there where my hand was. So he got it on there, tied it with a piece of buckskin, put it together, and he could make noise. So he started making noise. It's like, oh, maybe that'll do it. So he stayed in the village for a little bit. He continued to work on playing his stick. And finally he thought, well, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to try it out. So he went down there and he waited for her to come up the trail. And pretty soon, here she come, walking to the river. So he sat on the other side underneath the tree where the stick came from, and he played a song. And he got done, and he looked up. And the little girl was across there, empty-handed, with her mouth wide open, looking at him. And he says, "Hi, hi." He's waving at her. And she picked up her bags, and she started to walk away. And then she turned around and waved back at him. And he ran back to the village and told his dad and the medicine man, "I played a song for her, and she looked at me." And he says, "Well, that's really good, son. That's really good." And so he continued to play for the village and everything. And the medicine man said, "You need to name that, whatever that is that you got, that magical stick. What are you going to do? What are you going to name it?" So that's how the Native American flute was born. It was for dating, the magical stick, teaching little boys how to play for the girls that they love. So that's the story that goes with the flutes. Sure. Anybody got questions?
You haven't introduced your son.
Oh, this is my son Dietrich the second. He's here because he needs to see what I do, because somebody's got to step up when I'm too old to. So he's learning the ropes, and he's going to take over things that I do, and he's going to be out there just like me. So that's why he's here.
Do you want to do one more? I know some people might have to go, but
Sure.
Yeah, let's go. One more song. Here we go.
All right, one more.
encore.
Yeah.
Encore, encore. All right. This is a drone flute. It's two flutes put together. One only plays one note. The other one plays melody. So I'll play you a song. Sounds like this. Hi, Masi.
So can people come up and look at your
Yeah, you can come up and look at stuff and ask questions. So, and I got information about our encampments, and I got a few cards there. So, come on up and